Welcome in, everybody, to the Big Little Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Previty. That is Andrew Greig. We've been off for 10 days, and the NBA playoffs are in full swing. We were both completely wrong about the Lakers. They were the Lake Show, and then they were a no-show in this series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves won in 5 games. What went wrong?
Yeah, I mean, just I felt like everything went right for the Lakers team here. It feels good to be back, first of all, but I mean, the Lakers just completely fell apart in that series, which is super unfortunate for anybody who wanted to maybe see a deep LeBron and Luka run. But yeah, it's the fact that they had no bench wasn't really, it was overshadowed by the fact that they were playing really bad teams towards the end of March and April, and like they kind of found their groove in those games. But when you have to play a real playoff team in Anthony Edwards and that Minnesota Timberwolves team that was coasting into the playoffs, also on quite a hot streak as well. I just think that they ended up being the better team and were like probably the worst matchup possible for the Lakers in hindsight. Like it was something that we weren't really talking about as much, but their size just really dominated the Lakers. And the fact that the Lakers had zero bench, Gabe Vincent did nothing for them. Dalton Connect was a non-factor. He didn't play at all during the series, and just every kind of piece that they thought they could have had was just rendered essentially useless. So I mean, just, it felt like everything went wrong in a hurry for the Lakers.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the matchup prior, but I think we were both feeling like Luca and LeBron were going to be able to pull through enough in this series to where Rudy Gobert wasn't going to be able to play like Wilt Chamberlain. You were going to potentially see him get played out of the series like we have seen in years past, or Julius Randle was just going to shoot himself out of 4 games in this series, and the Lakers would just simply have enough, despite them being too small, despite even Austin Reeves playing like garbage this entire series. Just thought Luca and LeBron, there's no way they should go out in 5 games or in the first round. But I'll tell you what, the Timberwolves came to play. I think that they can. They're going to be a very good team, a very interesting team to watch in the future. If Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert could play like they did in the future series, then they should be all set, and they have a good or a fighting chance against anybody. But yeah, JJ Redick also just didn't make enough adjustments too, especially in games 4 and 5. I feel like the team needed a little bit of help. They needed to get out of that small ball lineup, and they just didn't do it.
Yeah, like you mentioned on the other side, I want to highlight the Timberwolves a little bit just because the fact that we're gonna be talking about what went wrong with the Lakers. They have LeBron, they have Luca, so feels like they should have gone past the first round, especially as the 3 seed in this series. But the what went right for the Timberwolves was that Rudy Gobert did have like I mean the game of his life it felt like in Game 5, and then he just like was a major factor in the series when we were maybe predicting that he could be taken out of the series as you mentioned, and that just didn't happen at all. He was a major factor in it, like almost every single game, and especially in the closeout game where Anthony Edwards maybe doesn't have his great, definitely doesn't have his greatest game in the world. Doesn't make a three, only scores 15 points, but it didn't even matter. And if Anthony Edwards, if you told both of us, if Anthony Edwards has a game like that before the series starts, you think that that game isn't even close and the Lakers automatically win. But then when you factor in Julius Randle picking up in the fourth quarter, having a good game and a good series in general, that was a factor that we thought coming into the series. We kind of discarded Julius Randle, kind of threw him to the side as a non-factor in the series, but he came to play, and Rudy Gobert just asserted himself in Game 5 and kind of essentially won them that game.
I think that's why a lot of people felt a little bit blindsided by how this series ended with the whole kind of JJ Redick leaving the press conference and then going into game 5. Anthony Edwards is 0 for 11 from three. You're thinking that there should be something that this team can take advantage of, and they just never really were able to. I'm really, I, I'm really mad at Austin Reeves because I'm starting to think that he may not be able to be the third best player on a championship team right now. And or with the way that is constructed, with whether or not how good of a ones and twos Luca and LeBron are. I'm starting to think this team's got some real constructural issues that they're going to have to fix this offseason. Obviously, they need more of a bench and they need a center, but there were some major issues with this team. But yeah, like if you had told me prior that Anthony Edwards was going to play like that, I'm thinking the whole time the only way that this team goes through the Lakers is if Anthony Edwards literally wills them there. And obviously he did at parts of this series. He was amazing too, but it was really just like a team overall effort. And I wanted to pitch this to you really quick. I didn't know if you had something to say on what I just said, but I think there's some serious conditioning concerns with Luca. I don't even really mean to get into the whole he shouldn't have been traded, but I think this coming off season, let's get this wrapped up. Like, let's not have any more questions about this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it trading with a guy like LeBron is going to be instrumental in kind of fixing that issue because it does feel like towards the end of the season he was dealing with injury, but like that is slightly to deal with the fact that he was a little bit unconditioned. You can see just a little bit about what the Mavs are getting at, not saying that they made the right decision. And I also think that this little umbrella that the Lakers are under right now needs to be like shadowed, I guess, by the fact that like they weren't supposed to be in this position this year. They didn't have their bench wasn't that strong. They lost the like I don't know how you want to stack him up at this point in LeBron's career, but probably possibly the best player on their team, Anthony Davis, and the way they just played around him, this everything kind of like it wasn't supposed to be this season. Like the Luca trade was supposed to be to building towards the future. Like everyone was like the reason why the on the Mavericks end this trade was so bad is because in 10 years when you look down the road, Luca's probably still going to be a Laker and he's going to be still averaging 30 points a game. And who will the Mavericks have? Like this wasn't supposed to be the season. The Lakers just caught fire, ended up grabbing that 3 seed, and they probably weren't supposed to be this good this early. But I mean, seriously, going into next season, there has to be conversations about how like Luca needs to like step up his like just off-season workouts and his just like whole training regimen because towards the end of the season it does get harder. Like it felt like even last year in the finals, like he just felt like he ran out of gas a little bit going into that final series, and naturally the Celtics were probably the better overall team in that series, but just in general, and it really shows on defense. Like he'll always be a consistent like offensive player, but on defense, it really starts to show. And there's like comments always in like the in whatever comment section you look at, if he's dropping 30 but then giving up 25, like how much of that like is it's just hard to. It's just hard to put a nail on it, but I mean, it's definitely conditioning needs to be one of the major like points that he like needs to key in on over the offseason, I feel like.
Yeah, there's too many videos going around where it's Luca pre-American food. There's highlights of his rookie year, and I would hope that hopefully something from LeBron's camp or whatever he does kind of rubs off a little bit on Luka Doncic, where he can potentially kind of get into a better resume. He just needs to cut a little bit, and I think that's all. I think he'll be able to do that. But if not, then it could be one of the more defining things in his career, maybe similar to a guy like Shaq or something like that. But I did want to pose a question before we get into LeBron James and his potential retirement or the rest of his career. Do you think this Timberwolves can beat either the Warriors or the Rockets, whoever comes out of game 7? I personally think that they could beat either of them. I don't even think it matters who comes out.
Yeah, I think we'll probably touch on this a little bit more as the playoffs roll around, but I think that this Timberwolves team has shown that with Anthony Edwards and just the way that they're playing basketball. I mean, Jane McDaniels has been their like it feels like their best defensive player, maybe aside from Rudy Gobert being like one of the best paint protectors we have ever seen. But like Jane McDaniels is their best perimeter defender, and the way they're built, like if like Jane McDaniels is guarding Curry, if Golden State comes out of this, or whoever, or Jalen Green, who's struggling in their series. Like I think that they match up really well, especially with Rudy Gobert possibly being able to do the exact same thing he did to the Lakers against a Warriors team, and maybe less so against the Rockets. But I think that they have a really good shot wherever this goes. I just want to maybe touch on Austin Reeves one last time. I know that he had a bad series, but I think that it was like you expanded on the fact that LeBron isn't who like he has been in years, and we'll get to that in like a second here. But then also Austin Reeves like typically hasn't had to play 40 minutes in the regular season. It's a different animal when you're playing such physical basketball for such extended periods of time. Where in game 4, I think it was, the starting five didn't even come out of the game in the second half. So I think that kind of expanded on the issues. But I think Austin Reeves is still a really good player. That's the final point I had on that.